Hi, welcome back. Today is Toxic Tuesday. So, part of what we're going to be talking about is the toxicity and the negative piece about narcissistic abuse, and also from maybe sometimes a different frame. Inside of today, part of the main topic and the thing that we're going to be discussing and going over is going to be the aspect of entitlement, but specifically in this area of expectations. Did your narcissist expect you to do certain things, to act a certain way, to look a certain way, to be a certain way? What were the expectations inside of your relationship? I would imagine that you didn't have a ton of expectations that you were allowed to actually expect, but he had many different expectations. And oftentimes you'll see the difference be in a very hypocritical way. If you guys are new here, my name is Ben Taylor. I'm a self-aware narcissist on this channel to provide awareness about narcissistic abuse. What I do on a day-to-day basis is to help break women free from a trauma bond, the triggers, the emotions that currently leave them stuck with a toxic guy. I also work with narcissists or toxic guys that show up as liars or cheaters or abusers to help them actually find freedom from their own lies. Because if they don't tell the truth, nothing will change, nothing will ever get better. Well, when you hear this word entitlement, what comes to mind? Like, what's the piece that triggers for you when you hear entitlement? What do you actually hear? What do you actually think? What do you actually understand when someone says that they're entitled? When you're looking at a narcissist, that's what you see all the time. Someone who is entitled, someone who thinks that the world revolves around them, someone who thinks that they're entitled to all the things, all the people, all of the aspects about your relationship. You might have already seen this in the area of him being entitled to your money, to your time, to like your focus, your attention, your energy, to your body. You might have seen lots of different aspects of this already being true in your life. He has a lot of different expectations and entitlement pieces about you. But I want you to consider for a moment, like, what are his expectations of you? Now, in a narcissistic relationship, it's typically all revolving around the narcissist, right? Like, it doesn't revolve around you. You don't actually matter. Your hopes, your needs, your feelings, your dreams, those are discounted because the expectation is all about him. So I want you to think for a moment inside of this expectation, what expectations do you have in this relationship? You might have expectations of it being a healthy relationship, of it being a positive environment, but the problem is he doesn't. The problem is he wants what he wants, regardless of how it impacts, regardless of how it hurts you. So we move inside this piece of this toxicity, the expectations get really real and sometimes can get really dark. The expectations that he has for you can oftentimes be a piece that it doesn't take into account your safety, your mindset, your mental and your emotional safety or support, and all it takes into account is what he wants. This is why the narcissist in your life can put you into dangerous situations. This is why screaming at you down the road while he's driving 90 miles an hour, that is not a problem because he's entitled to that. He has different expectations of what you're allowed or what you're not allowed to do. You've already seen this if you've left the narcissist and he's been very controlling and you've tried to get with someone else and he's threatened you. Or he's made different jabs at you or a partner that you're trying to get with because he still feels entitled to you. He has an expectation that you are his no matter what. You see, if you boil it down, and especially inside of the really controlling aspects, narcissists view that they own you. So the fact that you try to go to another person, that's this like quote unquote betrayal to the narcissist. So he's going to try to own you even more. He's going to try to stalk you. He's going to try to come after you. He's going to try to come after the other person. There's multiple things that we'll see happen inside of toxic relationships, but the biggest piece is inside this area of entitlement with the expectations that he's placing on you. I want you to consider for a moment, maybe you're on the toxic side. Maybe you're the guy in this environment and you're putting these unreasonable expectations on the gal. Like maybe on a day-to-day basis, you walk into the world and into the room and you think that the world revolves around you and you expect this person to have this like immediate compliance to your wishes and to your needs. Maybe you're the guy that expects the wife to perform and do the things that she needs to do. She needs to fall into her role of cooking and cleaning and doing whatever you think archaically like is what the role is supposed to be. When in reality, you just want a servant. You just want a slave. You just want someone who's going to do what you want them to do. This isn't why you got married. It's not the reason. It's not the main goal. But for you, you thought it'd be cool to have someone else that's a housemate that could take care of different things for you. Or a live-in babysitter so they could take care of your stepkids from the last kid, from the last person that you were with. You have these expectations that are oftentimes unreasonable. How do I know they're unreasonable? Because if those expectations were placed back on you, you'd freak out. If those expectations were something that was placed on you, you would get so mad, you get so pissed off. Be like, can't believe you're expecting me to do this. Can't believe you're talking to me this way. Can't believe you want me to do this. Yeah. Because narcissists will put unreasonable expectations on other people. Placing different things on someone else, making them feel obligated that they have to do something quickly or they have to follow through. This like immediate compliance piece. You need to follow through and do what I want you to do in that moment. As a narcissist, I had many expectations on my wife. Expectations that were oftentimes unreasonable. Expectations that oftentimes were stupid. There's expectation early on that she fold my laundry just right. And if she didn't, then I'd berate her and belittle her. Can't you fold laundry? Don't you know how to do this? I've showed you like 20 different times. Yeah, not happy and not proud with it. But the expectations were so high, it was stuff that she couldn't attain to, stuff that she couldn't reach. I remember one time getting all pissed off because like the food that she made didn't taste good. And the reason why it didn't taste good is because it was different noodles that she used in the food than what my mom would use. Yeah, ultimate like insult, right? Comparing her food to my mom's. Like multiple things that were degrading and belittling her and using this piece of, I expect this from you. I expect better. This got my wife into a place where she felt like she had to be perfect. Even now, there's different triggers that she'll struggle with that because she has that feeling, that piece inside of her that still goes back to the trauma bond, still goes back to the triggers that she has to show up perfect. But the problem is, in her trying to show up perfect meant she had to mask herself. She had to hide who she actually was. Because at that point, I wasn't willing to actually accept who she was. I wasn't willing to actually accept what was actually inside. I wasn't willing to accept her as she was because I only wanted to accept me. Everybody else was an inconvenience. Everybody else was a problem. Everybody else was an issue. But I could never accept anyone else because I couldn't even accept myself. Wasn't willing to actually see and hold space for me. Couldn't hold space for anyone else. So I had these unreasonable expectations. And I viewed everything needed to revolve around me. I had expectations at work. You had to show up. You had to be this person. You had to act this way. You better not disrespect me. There's multiple expectations that I held that in totality were toxic. Like in the whole were ridiculous. But I had different expectations that people had to have and what I needed from them. I had expectations inside of the affairs. What they could or couldn't do, who they could or couldn't talk to. Expectations that if you're with me, you can't be with someone else. But I was with someone else because I was with my wife and I was cheating on them. So there's this multiple like back and forth. All of it doesn't make logical sense, but in my mind, I wanted what I wanted. So there's these expectations that I would place on other people. And the expectations oftentimes would produce this obligation. And the obligation, whether it was a enjoyment or whether it was a pain for them, it didn't matter to me. What mattered is I got what I wanted. What mattered is it felt good in the moment. It was this little high, this little happiness piece in the moment that I got what I wanted. Do you see this? It's extreme selfishness. It's extreme, like pointed in a way of being like, I just want what I want. Like a toddler with no bounds of like what he can actually do. That was all my expectations, all the pieces that I was pushing on other people. And oftentimes these expectations didn't even make sense. Like being with an affair partner and not wanting them to be with someone else. Even though I was with them and also with my wife. But I was jealous of the other person. I wanted to control. I wanted to have these expectations of like, what are you doing? Where are you going? Who are you with? Oh, what happened? There's so many different expectations here that just produce more and more toxic environments. So I want you to consider on two sides. Maybe you're the narcissist watching this today. Maybe you're the guy. Maybe you don't like the label. Who cares? Maybe you're the liar that's watching this. Maybe you're the entitled person that's watching this. Now, I want you to consider, where do you actually feel like you're putting these expectations on someone else? Where do you actually see expectations that if you took the same expectations and put them back on you, the same standards that you're trying to push, the same bar raising that you keep doing on someone else, if you put it on you, how would that feel? How would that look? Could you actually handle it? Probably not. Because the majority of the time, if you're at this place and you're realizing that you might be a liar, or you might be entitled, or you might be a narcissist, you couldn't handle anything that you give to someone else. You're too weak-skinned, you're too shallow, you're too much of a coward to actually deal with you. So you try to just control and manipulate everybody else so that you can live on top of your cowardly throne of feeling better about yourself. Maybe you're watching this today and you're on the other side and you're the person who's had all these expectations placed upon you. What I want to encourage you today is just a simple aspect that these expectations and your lack of meeting these expectations do not define your worth, do not define your value. They don't. They're completely different. They're completely separate. And understanding that the person that's doing this to you is manipulating because he keeps moving the goalposts, moving the bar. Here's my expectation. Oh, yeah, here's my expectation. Oh, yeah, here's my expectation. Oh, yeah, here's my expectation. And it never stops. Like, you're never going to attain this perfection that he's looking for because he's always going to move the bar. And if you did, think of it this way. Think of it logically. If you did attain the perfection and he didn't move the bar, he would freak out because at that point he knows, oh, all the issues in the marriage, it's not because of her, because she did everything that I asked her to do. It's because of me. He's not going to do that, which is why it's easier to move the bar than it is to deal with himself. The guilt, the shame, the things that are going on, it's easier to run from it than it is to actually confront it and actually deal with problems on a day-to-day basis. If you're listening today and you're a guy and you're struggling with lying, cheating, abusing, like this piece of entitlement, you're not sure how to heal from it, once you go to rawmotivations.com, click on the place to talk to me, and let's move forward. If you're a woman that's dealing with this and you have this entitlement piece that's placed upon you and you have unreasonable expectations in your life, you might be in a toxic environment. Reach out. Go to Raw Motivations as well, and let's see about talking today to help you move forward in your healing and in your freedom.